Okay, so as I'd said, World War III. Are we kind of starting it? Maybe is this like the first step in that direction? I don't know. Some people seem to think it is. This article here, I'm going to read it. This is from what is this? Mint, whatever. I just caught it. It looks like it's a money publication, so they'll have that kind of angle on it. I'm going to read this. It's a pretty good article. It's pretty short, so said World War chances at 50% as Israel-Hamas conflict may spark more battles, says Ray Dalio. So the raging conflict between Israel and Palestinian militant group Hamas has increased the chances of a full-blown world war to 50% from 35% 2 years ago, as per the assessment of American billionaire and hedge fund wizard Ray Dalio. This war has a high risk of leading to several other conflicts of different types in a number of places, and is likely to have harmful effects that will extend beyond those in Israel and Gaza, he stated in a LinkedIn post. It appears to me that the odds of transitioning from the contained conflicts to a more uncontained hot war that includes the major powers have risen from about 35% to about 50% over the last 2 years. I've heard this number before where they talk about this. There was another hedge fund guy talking about it. They do this thing where they I don't know how they come up with this number, but they figure out this sort of percentage based on a bunch. Obviously, hedge fund guys are mathematical guys, right? So they take all these different pieces of data points and they put it in there and they figure out sort of a percentage of how likely we are to go into another hot conflict, a world war conflict. And they were saying with the Ukraine Russia conflict that it was around 35%. I've heard that number before. So I said it's higher than it's been in years, right? So I guess it just keeps going up and up and up. So the fact that he's saying 50% now, I mean, that's a little scary if you trust those numbers. I mean, I don't know. Okay. So the primary risk of a full-blown world war emanates from the possibility of the United States and China getting involved in a direct confrontation. He warned. That's always the worry, right? That two superpowers are going to get, they're going to back each side, right? And then they're going to play war games without actually getting into a hot war. Currently, however, the US-China tensions have not yet crossed the irreversible line from being contained, becoming a brutal war between the biggest powers and their allies, Dalio said. We should recognize that these two hot wars, the Israel-Hamas war and the Russia-Ukraine war, are not just between the parties directly involved in them. These wars are part of the bigger great power conflicts to shape the new world order. And they will have big effects on the countries who are allies and enemies of the four sides in these two seemingly irrevocable wars. Irreconcilable wars. These two wars will cost the allies of these countries a lot, he explained. While Israel has received the backing of the US, Canada, and most of the West, those standing in solidarity with Palestine includes Iran and its axis of resistance, Syria, Yemen, and Lebanon. A number of Arab countries considered close to Washington are feeling pressure from the local populace who have rallied in support of Palestinians. So, and also, I guess Egypt now has decided they're going to stay out of the conflict, but who knows if they renege on that. They're a bordering state to Israel as well, right? So they could be a pretty big power player in there as well. Notably, China and Russia, the two ideological rivals of the U.S., have underlined the need to resolve the 7 decades old dispute and establish an independent state of Palestine. I don't disagree with that. Obviously, there should be an independent state of Palestine, but the problem with that was, or is, I should say, having a, a group like Hamas run it. I mean, you need. I don't pretend to have the answers to this kind of thing. It's age old. It's an age old conflict, but you need to have some type of you know desire for peace in that area before any kind of governance can happen, and they can cohabitate essentially in the same sort of space. Otherwise, they need a massive buffer zone. Just maybe the borders of those countries have to be like 50 miles wide or something. I don't know. Dalio believes that if the major powers, a reference to the U.S. And its allies on one hand, and China and its close partners on the other hand, do have a direct fighting with each other in which one side kills a significant number of people on the other side, then we will see the transition from contained pre-hot war conflicts to a brutal World War III. Okay. So, I mean, that's a pretty, it would seem pretty logical that sort of argument that that could lead to a world war if these two sort of puppeteer superpowers in back go from just selling weapons and you know maybe giving money or whatever they're doing to influence whichever side that they're backing. If they decide they're going to get in the mix, yeah, that's going to turn into obviously a pretty hot war. Uh, okay, so what do we got here? What do you got to say here? Sorry, it's hard to read on that, Joe. Worst part is the U.S. will be infighting at the same time. We're overseas fighting battles that aren't ours. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, that's what we've been doing, right? It's it's like this very cold civil war going on between the left and the right over here in the West, and then you've got these hot wars going on where they're getting involved as well, right? Uh, yeah. So, yeah, you know what? We're gonna have to keep an eye on this. Obviously, hopefully, I think anybody watching would hope that this conflict can kind of calm down somewhat because obviously, anytime a conflict stays hot for a long period of time, the chances are that it will, you know, build and become a lot bigger than it currently is. So, and that could be pretty bad for all of us, not just us over here in the West, but everybody in the whole world, really.